Well, Sabbath greetings to everyone. Hope you've had a wonderful post-feast week just after the wonderful days of unleavened bread. It was just a fantastic feast, and certainly had just a wonderful time. It's been pretty busy this week, and it's been a good busy. But I have a little bit of time here, so I'm going to try to hurry and get this video posted so I can get back to doing some prepping for this weekend's activities for Chicago. We'll be in Chicago. We look forward to seeing everyone there in Chicago for our Spokesman's Club and of course services, and looking forward to seeing everyone there very much. Just have a little bit of preparation yet to before heading out to Chicago. But I hope all of you are having hope you had a wonderful week, and I hope you're really gearing up for a fantastic Sabbath. I've had this series going on, the fruits of the Spirit. I want to continue that at this time and talk about Galatians 5:22. It says that one of the fruits of the Spirit is joy. The fruit of joy is what I want to discuss briefly in the video tonight. Joy, it's interesting. Really pay attention to this definition. How much of this is going on in the world today? I hope we have a tremendous amount of this, but just think about this definition of what it means to have joy. Joy is defined as intense and especially ecstatic or exultant happiness. Intense happiness. Ecstatic, exultant happiness. That's what joy is. Happiness, full and spilling over, running over. That's one of the fruits of the Spirit. One of the things we can gain by having God's Spirit guiding our lives, having Jesus Christ living His life within us. Back in Proverbs 15, I just want to cover a couple of scriptures here with regard to this topic of the fruit of the Spirit of joy. Proverbs 15 and verse 23. It says, "A man has joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season. How good it is." That's a wonderful proverb. A man has joy by the answer of his mouth. A man or a woman has joy by the answer of his mouth, and a word spoken in due season. How good it is. This is why God's true feast days are considered highlights of the year for those that are following Him, who trust in Him, who believe Him, and keep His feasts as He commands. That's why it is such a joyous time of the year. And it is just filled with joy. And I hope you had just a joyous and wonderful feast season. I think most of you did. It was a very special feast season. And they should be. We're all together being reminded of God's great plan of salvation. And we are moved to joy, to an intense happiness, ecstatic, exultant happiness. Everything's just sweeter around that time. And why is that? Because of all these words that are being spoken in due season. Being reminded of the great plan of God, the plan of salvation, and how we fit into that plan. Especially in the spring holy days. And then we get to the fall and we start to explore how God is dealing with the rest of the world and how He's going to bring salvation to everyone who's ever lived and died. And we just look forward to that, of course, as a highlight of the year. All of God's holy days are special in that way because of all of these words that are spoken in due season. And what a joyful time it really, really is. And I hope yours was truly a wonderful and joyous holy day season. In Ecclesiastes, since we're not far from there, Ecclesiastes 2 and verse 26. Ecclesiastes 2 and verse 26 says, "For God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in His sight. But to the sinner He gives the work of gathering and collecting, that he may give to him who is good before God." And of course he adds, this also is vanity and grasping for the wind. And so this is a principle here that when we do good before God, when we are striving to walk in uprightness, to obey Him, to walk with Him, to strive to have that kind of relationship with Him, then God gives us wisdom and knowledge, and yes, joy comes with that. That's a living law. If we're walking uprightly, if we're trying to keep our minds under control, our thoughts under control, bring every thought into captivity to the obedience of Christ, we're trying to really think things through and be, walk uprightly with God, then these things happen. God gives us wisdom and knowledge and joy, a supreme happiness, an ecstatic, exultant happiness, the intense variety of happiness. And I hope we can consider these things this Sabbath, and I hope we can have joy. We should have. This is a feast day. Every week on the seventh day, we have a feast day, and we are to rejoice before God and have tremendous, intense, ecstatic happiness. In John 15, I'm going to finish here in John chapter 15. If I can, it's a little bit cumbersome here. I've got all this on my lap. But John 15, I want to cover this in we'll start in verse 10 of John 15. John 15:10 says, "If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I've kept my Father's commandments and abide in His love." We abide in the love of God and Jesus Christ when we keep the commandments. We walk uprightly. God gives us wisdom and knowledge and joy. And verse 11, "These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may remain in you, and that your joy may be full." Full of joy, full of intense happiness, and an ecstatic, exultant happiness is what Jesus Christ wants for us. And when we look at the context in John 15, where does He start here in this context? He says, "I am the true vine, and those branches that cling to me, that get their nourishment and strength and guidance from me as the vine, the true vine, then you are going to bear much fruit, intense fruit, all of those fruits of the Spirit, including joy," as he mentions there in verse 11. Intense joy, that we can be full of joy. And so that's the idea. That's what it takes. If we want to have joy, that's what the Scripture reveals. We've got to keep the commandments, walk uprightly before God, and we can have an intense happiness. And that's what it takes to have those kind of fruits of the Spirit. And God's Spirit is guiding our lives. Jesus Christ is living in us. Then we can have that kind of joy, that intense happiness. Well, I truly hope you have a wonderful, intensely happy Sabbath wherever you are. We look forward to seeing you again there in Chicago, and the rest of you around the area. We love you. We miss you. We look forward to seeing you in the weeks ahead. And we just hope you have a wonderful Sabbath, a joyous Sabbath, a wonderful upcoming week. Take care and have a great Sabbath.